Hello, this is Chris Cooper, and a big welcome to the Business Elevation Show. It's great to be back with you again for yet another week with another fantastic guest who's actually joining us for the second time, Gaia Ferreira, who's joining us at the moment from Amsterdam, although usually lives in beautiful Valencia in Spain. So we're going to be talking today about unlocking your genius. Before we do that, I'd like to say a big thank you to all of you who are listening today, and just to say this show is about bringing you exceptional people who are doing great work around the world, but also there's a subline to the show now, which is where good matters, because we really care that people are contributing to improving the world rather than to causing further damage and polarization. And so I bring you people who are doing really positive work, because we often don't hear about that in this environment, and there's a lot that is going on that is aimed and people working together to try and solve some of the challenges that we face at the moment. I also just want to mention that on last week's show we had Jim Lebenthal. Jim is a fantastic guy. He's besides being very involved in Wall Street investment from a very famous Wall Street family. Jim is also a stock picker on CNBC TV. He's been on there for 13 years, so quite a well-known face in the United States. And Jim talked about getting around on Wall Street and life in his new book, which is about how to ride the subway, but that's the metaphor. So there's some really interesting ideas about living and life, from someone who'd been a submarine commander to his current roles on Wall Street, and also some really interesting thoughts about investment, investing for the long term, about the importance of not trading very quickly on the stock market. How you can build great wealth if you want to help you do good things through being in the stock market for a long period of time. So if you're interested in investment, if you're interested in life and getting on in life, do check that out. Another thing I just want to mention is the community that I lead, the Elevation Collective. We created a book which is also linked to this is now one of the longest running podcasts in the world, the Business Elevation Show. And what I've done is created a free book about 10 elevations to thrive and do good. So if you're interested in that, just go to the chriscooper.co.uk site, scroll down, you can sign up for that for free. So let me now focus on our guest today. Let's talk about unlocking your genius. So I'm looking at the moment with Gaia, who's Ferreira, who's in Amsterdam. We'll find out why, maybe in a moment. But what I think is really interesting about today's conversation is I want to talk about the future of health and well-being. And actually solving this is not often it's not about generic advice, but what if it was really about understanding your unique blueprint, the blueprint that really makes each of us who we are. And this could maybe be a solution to greater health, fulfilment and sustainable success, not from working harder, but really, really understanding ourselves more deeply. So Gaia is a real pioneer in this area. She's a transformational coach. She's a behavioural strategist. She's a creator of the Genius to Genius method. And she's on a real mission to democratise health and well-being by helping people to decode their genetic blueprint, life story, and their innate genius so they can thrive in business and do well. So I'd like to say a big welcome today to my guest, to Gaia Ferreira.
Thanks, Chris. I'm always so happy to be on your show. Every conversation we have is always, it always sits with me for months to come. So I'm really happy to be here today.
Well, thank you. And what brings you into Amsterdam today? Can we say? Also, that maybe not fair to say, because I know you're looking at something interesting meetings.
Meetings, life's adventure. Continued growth.
Because you travel a lot, don't you?
I travel quite a bit, yeah. I'm a single mom, 3 kids, but I have my own business. So the only way to keep growing is to, keep growing your network and the people you know and the conversations you have and the things you learn. So not everything is available in Valencia, Spain, where I live. And sometimes you got to get away from the screen and do it in person. So.
Yeah. Well, you've also, I know you've lived in a lot of countries.
Yeah, I think I've lived 3 times in Spain now, and I've lived in 9 countries so far, and counting.
Wow. So quite a traveller. Let's go back. We've had you on the show before, but let's go back and talk just a little bit about your journey, which I think is quite extraordinary, because you began in international marketing and then communications. You became a Cordon Bleu chef. You've hosted a TV cookery program, and now you're helping people unlock their potential through Genius U. Genius to Genius. Tell us a little bit about your journey, and what led you to where you are in terms of this interest in and fascination in understanding our blueprint.
Yeah, so the program is called Gene to Genius, and we're just going to start at the end.
Sorry, Gene to Genius.
No, it's fine. So I believe that your genius is like that thing that's within you that comes in with you when you're born. And then when we have it fully until we're about 5, 6 years old. And then as our first saboteur comes in, which is a saboteur of self-judgment, and as logic and the ability to analyze the world starts to come online, we start to lose that genius, right? I think by the time we're 15 years old, we've heard the word no something like 45,000 times, but we've only heard yes like 5,000 times. So that really shapes who we become as adults and human beings. But that genius is always there. It's like a part of our base operating system. And then the genetics are the part of us that is this body that we have, like the vehicles by which we move through the world, to which same thing, we come with its, it comes with its own recipe, its own blueprint. And then we go and we have these, cultures and family traditions and habits and trends and decisions we make to stay cool, or decisions we make to, be skinnier, be more beautiful, be smarter, whatever it is. And that goes and it affects our blueprint. And so our biology also changes. And this is something that has always fascinated me. Like from the time I was a small kid, I came into my family. My family was very different from everyone else for a lot of different reasons. From one, we were immigrants. So it made me just always observe how the world worked. And it always, like with me at the center, of course, like how do I feel and how do other people feel in these situations? And what would I do, or how do I do things, and how do other people do things in the same situations? And I was lucky enough to grow up in Montreal, which is a very multi-ethnic community, multiple languages, and then access to a lot of different stuff from all over the world. So I grew up with Tony Robbins, and he basically opened up the world of possibilities in how we change our human behavior and what can happen for us throughout life because of what we bring as human beings, right? And then from there, it just continued evolving, this curiosity of mine. I have an undergrad in psychology. I studied IT because my undergrad finished like 2 years before Y2K, and the world was gonna explode because nobody, programmed the year correctly. So I studied programming and hacking, and then I worked in all these what is now cybersecurity, but at the time was the original code for securing IT systems. But I worked in the marketing department. So my job was always to communicate the complex and make it easy. And I burnt out at 35. I was like living in Madrid, working in working in France, and with 2 small kids under the age of 5 at home, burnt out, and left my executive job. Everybody thought I was crazy because I had the prestige, I had the salary, I had, so I call that my profit career. And then burnt out and decided to go back to school and follow something that I've always loved, which is cooking. I've always been very creative. I was a musician as a child. Went back, studied Cordon Bleu, studied sommellerie. And then while pregnant with my third, I started my own business, and that business in catering just blew up like almost instantly. So within a year, I had a catering business, a cookery school, a sommelier service for tourists in Madrid, and I was given my dream, which was have my own television show. So my TV show was #1 in Spain on the channel, in the channel's history. For 3 years, I was on TV like 5 times a day. It was amazing. And then a friend of mine died. She left behind 3 kids, the same age as my 3 kids. And it completely changed how I see life. Went back to school again, studied nutrition, realized that having the information isn't enough. We all know what we're supposed to do, so why don't we do it? Went back into behavioral programming, studied a bunch of other things, NLP, hypnotherapy, intuitive coaching, a lot of shamanic medicine, and worked for Tony Robbins, which was like dream come true as well. And eventually I left Tony Robbins and started my own brand. And I've been doing that ever since, like helping people live better lives, healthier lives, happier lives, more fulfilled by understanding who they are from their genetic blueprint, like how they were designed to operate, all the way to their genius, which is what they were born, who they were born to be, via their life story, which is what life programs you to do, whether or not it's good for you.
Wow, I'm almost out of breath just listening to all of that. So, and it's just really
I'm
interesting.
Portuguese. We can talk a lot.
That's just all the the different kind of points in your career, because it's I was looking at a book recently that a guest who's coming on the show soon, Jay Summit, wrote about the your second act advantage, about later in life going into your second act. It appears you've had quite a few acts already. I mean, I think I'm probably on
Yeah,
my
but
fourth, I suspect, but
Jay is onto something because I remember when I was like 47, I was dating somebody over 50, and he kept saying, "Oh, you can really tell you haven't hit 50 yet." And I'm like, "Stop saying things like that. Like what? I've had more life than most people at 80, you know." And then I turned 50, and it dropped. Like I was like, "Oh, now I get it." Like there's this wisdom that just one day just drops in, and it drops in. I think it cannot drop in until you hit that age mark. um, and I think that's like, not I think, but I've seen this also on like all of my clients' paths, genius paths. It's marked in our energetic signature. There is a phase somewhere between 50 and 54 where our entire life's story and what we were meant to learn just all of a sudden drops. And then again, there's like this change. So I'm doing this, and it's now I like all these years I've been doing what I wanted to do and what I felt I needed to do, but now it's kind of like, I get why I had to go through that route. Now they say there's 2 days that matter: the day you were born and the day you know why.
yeah.
The day I know why came this year.
Yeah, it's
Even though,
fascinating. Yeah, it's
yeah,
fascinating that, and you wonder, how many people actually don't. And I guess maybe through your work, they can maybe find that space, but maybe get to a point in their lives and they're working and they feel that life isn't maybe where they'd like it to be, but they don't know why. Because like you, I almost see the same thing. It's almost like you do all of these sometimes quite disparate things, and then suddenly it becomes a point in time where suddenly it makes sense. And I think if also you can you get to that point too, when it's not about the money. It's actually about doing things in a very authentic way, in a more relaxed way. I just feel this part of your life could be your most productive and highest contribution.
yeah. Like the thing is, we have to be careful to not drink the Kool-Aid, right? Not drink the not give into the hype. And we spend so much of our lives thinking we're not enough,
Yeah.
thinking we're not in the right place, we're not with the right people, we're not doing the right thing. Where does that come from? It doesn't come from in here. It comes from out there, right? It comes from the external messaging of programming that they're trying to box this into to suit their needs, right? Um, and I think when you hit about 50, you start to realize all the ways that your messiness, your loves, your passions, your kookiness, all that stuff that's just you is actually the gift.
Mm.
And if you don't allow it, like if you don't allow them to put it in a box, there's actually so much joy and purpose and meaning and just like true success of life.
Yeah. You talk about your mission being about democratizing health and well-being. What do you mean?
So I suppose, so I've lived in multiple countries. I have different perspectives on things like the health systems, nutrition systems, how psychology is influenced by the people we're around. And then I have my own life story, right? My family they were immigrants. They weren't like super wealthy, but I was lucky to live in a country with universal healthcare. But over life, you experience these things and you meet these people, and I feel I fundamentally believe that we have reached a point in human history where we've separated rights and privileges. And health is not a privilege, it's a right, but it's treated like a privilege, right? We hear about all these people in some countries who go bankrupt just because they got sick, or who are stressed out having a baby, and they're stressed out and they can't miss a day of work because they might lose their jobs or whatever. And then we live like in Spain. I find Spain such an amazing country from a health perspective. Everybody has access to private and public, and you go with what your doctor recommends. It's amazing. But even that, there's issues, right? Like we are in the medical system, we are, as an example, right? We are subject to what the Minister of Health has decided, what the hospital has on offer, what the doctor, your doctor knows about. And yet every day on the news, we hear about these incredible discoveries. And the only people right now who have access to it are the people who are time rich and wealthy, right? Because biohacking or supplementation, like all this it's not cheap. It's very expensive, and it's great that they access it, but all of society needs access to it. And so one of the things that I'm working on this year is like all these 10 years that I've been doing my Gene to Genius programs, I've been working with DNA testing and helping people understand how they were built and what they were built for. Like this year is the year where I'm democratizing that so that it's not an elite service anymore. It had to be elite up until now because there is a lot of time and research and everything put into it. And I'll keep that as well as a extra high touch based service. But I'm looking for the way right now. I'm developing the way right now to have it be available to more people, the people who really need it, which are the people who are the most stressed out, the most time poor, the most money poor, like single moms and overworked dads and people in far remote places who might not have access to the latest technology in their local medical center or whatever it is.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. And we you talked about sort of your kind of genetics and maybe almost like the path that's almost meant for you and kind of discovering that. But along that journey, of life, we can have real challenges. We can, in your life you shared, I've experienced burnout, I've experienced grief like you as well. And we have these turning points in life, don't we? How on that journey, how do they also impact health and well-being? And how do we best, how is that something in your process that you also kind of work through?
I mean, like I said, the Gene to Genius method has basically three pillars to it. One is the biology, the other one is the psychology or your mindset, and the third one is, call it what in the way that suits you: consciousness, energy, your essence, like of being, right? So we're going to put those three pillars. I've had, and I think we all have had them, major events in all three of those. For instance, like 3 times I've ended up in hospital, not because what I went through was particularly severe, but because the doctor or the medical system did not listen, made an error. The last time I think we talked about it a couple of days ago, almost killed me, right? And it was needless. It was literally because the system is overwhelmed with too many patients, not enough time, not enough doctors. And so the doctors that were there for me weren't listening. They were just trying to get me through, in 7.3 minutes or whatever it was. And and no matter how much I fought, there's also this world now where, maybe the experts don't want to listen to the non-experts because they're like, well, stop reading AI or whatever, stop Googling it. Yeah. You don't have a medical degree, right? And that's true. You have to, but it's a conversation, and I think the conversation has mostly stopped. At least it did for me in those 3 instances where there was no conversation. There was an obedience or else, and the obedience landed me in hospital, and the last time it almost killed me. So that for me was very much the wake-up call that actually I have to do this for everyone, not just my elite clients, right? Yeah. Psychologically, I mean, life throws you things, right? People that you love die, marriages break down, what stress, overwhelm. So I've been on this journey. Like I said, I had a very, challenging childhood. My family loved me like crazy. My mom didn't have the systems, and so I grew up in a violent home. And that shapes you. So, but I'm not violent, but it still marks you. So I did, I've done tons and tons of psychological work as well to heal that. And now I do it for other people because, again, with all the methodologies that I've tried, I've narrowed in the ones that I find are the most useful. And then from a spiritual perspective, I mean, we can talk forever. Have you seen the light? No, there's unexplainable things that I think you might not be able to study it in a laboratory, but we all know are there anyways, and that's the other side of it. So again, the gene to genius model puts it all together and provides a map for you of you.
Into sort of a framework. And it's interesting you were talking there about your surgery, and a couple of days we've both had surgeries that have gone wrong, or procedures that have kind of gone wrong. And there's today with the healthcare system, often it seems to it doesn't seem very holistic, does it? It's not holistic. It's identifying a problem, and the solution's often medication or surgery.
Yeah, the term health now has kind of been like, we use health, but really what's being done is symptom masking, the symptom treatment, right? It's not root cause discovery, not in a lot of cases. I mean, I was doing some research a couple of weeks ago, and there's something like 500,000 to a million medical errors done every single year in the United States alone. 1 out of every 20 people who go into a hospital will come out dead or somehow incapacitated from medical error. Those are like alarming numbers, especially when, by listening, we get so much information that's probably being like looked over right now.
And is that perceived as collateral damage? I mean, I don't know how.
I don't know. You have to ask their system. Probably it's probably why they have such great insurance plans.
Yeah.
For the hospitals and stuff. But it is something to consider. I don't think that. I was recently in Austria, and in Austria, apparently, when you're sick, you don't go to the ER. You stay home and you wait until Monday and you talk to your GP, and the GP will let you know whether this is something worth going to the hospital for. In Spain, for instance, everybody just takes themselves and their kids to the ER. So what does that do? That creates like a burden system. It creates far more viruses and bacteria and everything floating around between people needlessly, right? I was recently in the hospital with my daughter for a muscular edema after a jiu-jitsu exercise, and we both got the flu 3 days later. Like it's 35 degrees outside, so clearly not the weather.
Yeah.
So there's these little things where I think we've just gotten so used to a system that's there that hasn't been modernized, or and there's so much we can do at home before having to go to a hospital or a doctor.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, if you break a leg, don't try to fix that at home. Go to the hospital. But if you've got a cold, a flu, a stomach ache, there is quite a bit that we can check on, or even preventative, like just strengthening your immune system, getting better sleep, having deeper sleep, exercising more vitamin D, smiling, singing. Singing is such a good thing for the immune system and for keeping depression away. How many people sing?
Yeah. Well, in our family, the challenge is if people sing, it could cause depression in other people. That's the only problem.
That's what karaoke is for.
That's the challenge. So you're creating a system that is, you've created a system that is, as you say, democratized, so it's available, can be available for people, not at incredibly high price points only the wealthy could afford, which look at your genetics, look at your psychology, look at probably where you are in the stage of your life, and then if you've got symptoms or you've got challenges in your life isn't quite going where you want it to be, then during that process you're able to pinpoint that and support. Is that the...
Well, the app is, you load it up with all the information we request of you. Obviously, the more information you put in.
Okay, so there's an app, yeah.
It will be an app, an app/platform. Yeah. Then the more information you have, then the more precise we can be. It is not diagnostic. I just want to say that 1,000 times over. It's not diagnostic. The purpose of it is to help you support your health from a support perspective, a preventative perspective, not a post-diagnosis perspective, not a diagnostic perspective, right? So if you already have a diagnosis, obviously, the results will probably be uploaded as well to the APRA platform. We just help support. It's not about like replacing what your doctor says or getting off medication or anything like that. It is literally from a natural perspective, and what I mean by natural is the things that are freely available to you. Going for walks, the sunshine, foods, supplementation. Okay, you have to pay for that, but sometimes that is necessary. What can you do to support your biological, your psychological, and your spiritual system for the whole of you to be the healthiest, the most imbalanced, and most fulfilled?
Yeah, yeah. That sounds very very appealing, I would imagine, to many people. To,
I hope it will be.
because we've only got one life, so we might as well live it in balance, didn't
I
we?
mean, look, people often say,
Oh,
what
you
is the
know?
purpose of life? And I suppose we can all put in some like action-based purpose, like but really the purpose of life is to enjoy it. Why
Yeah.
else would we be here? Birds and dogs, they're not worried about stuff. I don't know if you have a dog, but like
Mm.
I have a dog. It couldn't care less about anything except how much love it's getting,
Yeah.
how much enjoyment it's getting. That's what life is supposed to be about. Are
Yeah.
we really experiencing the enjoyment of it, the potential enjoyment of it?
Yes. So happiness is a key outcome, is it?
I
Within your
would call it
process.
bliss.
You call
Bliss
it
is even
bliss.
more than happiness.
Yeah.
Yeah, bliss is like balanced health, living in flow and having absolutely no worries, just being at peace with yourself.
Okay. And so I guess over the break, people can maybe reflect upon whether their life is in bliss at the moment, and maybe
Yeah.
on a scale of 1 to 10, where would they put
Ooh,
them?
that's scary.
Yeah. Where would you put your life on a scale of bliss between one to
Yeah, if it's
ten?
less than 8, contact me.
So we're going to get to commercial break now. We'll be after the commercial break. We'll explore a few sort of components of this, and maybe have a think about some of the things that you could do as well if you're feeling maybe exhausted or overwhelmed, or life doesn't feel quite right. You're fairly low on that scale of bliss. Or you want to move from 8 to 9 to 9 to 10 or something like that. Maybe we can have a think about that after the break. So we'll be back with you with lots of ideas in a few minutes. Do join us again shortly, perhaps with a pen and paper if you're sitting still. Identify a few golden nuggets, a few thoughts. Try and just think about this and relate it to your life and where you're at the moment.
Sounds
Hi, this is Chris Cooper. I'm with Gaia Ferreira, and we're talking about unlocking your genius. And we could have actually called this unlocking your bliss, actually, from the conversation we had before the break. Gaia isn't from you. You've got lots of and you have lots and lots of wealthy clients around the world. Is bliss linked to wealth at all?
I mean, I think that's what we've been sold, right? That's the idea we've been sold. Um, I mean, look, you can have money and have nothing else. Would that make you boastful? You can have everything and not have millions. Would that make you boastful? Right? To me, the way to know if you're in bliss is, are you going to bed at night soundly? Can you can you be going to bed at night with gratitude in your heart, peace in your body, and a smile on your face? Because if you've got peace, if you've got gratitude, you've got everything you need,
Yeah,
including enough money.
yeah, and that's quite an interesting going to bed with peace as well, with what might we perceive is going on in the world at the moment. It's quite another another challenge, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And look, we live in an era, speaking about like the spiritual side of us, right? We are, no matter how intelligent we are, or how much we try to ignore emotions, right? Because that is something in personal development, to like squash your emotions and
Mm.
be neutral and all this stuff. The reality is we are emotional sponges. We're always picking up something. And right now, in, let's call it, the collective energetic field, right? What's happening in the world, whether your life is good or bad or whatever, we are picking up the stress of everything going on in the world. Like, I never watch the news ever. Like, if something is important enough that I need to know about it, it'll reach me. It'll find its way to me, right? I also have a thing that if I'm not going to dedicate my time and energy and money to help solve it, then there's no reason for it to be occupying space in my nervous system. So, you know, for me, living in bliss, living at peace, living well in the world that I create is extremely important. Um, and it is a very hard thing to do that and to still not absorb what's going on in the world.
Mm.
Because you walk down the street, you go talk to the baker or in Spain we everybody goes to the little coffee shops, like you go talk to your cafe barista, right? And everybody's talking about what's happening in the world. So it's there, even if you don't seek it, right? Which is why one of the practices that I think is so important for everyone to do, no matter who you are, where you're at in life, like, or in the world, is to just do breath work. Like, just to be very still with yourself and breathe, but breathe deeply. Breathe, like, inhale through your nose, down from your diaphragm, and exhale with your whole body, even if you have to make a loud sigh or a grunt, as if you're emptying your body of all the energy it doesn't need. It's so important to, like, start the day with that. And if you're stressed at the end of the day, to end the day with that as well. And if you can give yourself an extra 5 minutes, just journal what was coming through. Just get it out of your body, put it on paper, and then burn the paper and never look at it again, as a
Yeah.
ritual.
I always find it interesting how some people think of kind of breath work as being a bit woo woo. I mean, how can breathing, which is life or death and a key biological process, be woo woo?
Well, the thing is, everything is our nervous system, right? Everything about our lives, how we feel about things, how we show up for things, it really comes down to our nervous system. And we don't realize how stress, fight, flight, these states of our being, when we're in them, we stop breathing. Now we're still having breath, but we're not breathing deeply anymore. It's very shallow breath from up here, right? Which is why so many people have anxiety attacks, panic attacks, hyperventilation, right? It's because the breath is up here.
Mm.
So yes, breathing is not woo-woo. It is extreme, like, simple medicine, but you have to do it right.
Mm.
Which, again, going back to something we said earlier before the break, that's why singing is so important and so good to, like, stave off depression and other mental health concerns, is because with singing, you have to breathe. You have to breathe deeper, especially if you sing really loudly. Like, get in the car, put on your favorite tunes, and sing like nobody's listening. It just completely resets the breath in our bodies and fills us up with oxygen. It's important.
Excellent. Now you talk quite a bit, I know, about push and pull. Could you explain the difference? About people kind of
Yeah.
striving for things and being drawn towards things that may or may not be right for them.
Yeah, so this goes back to your programming, your life's programming that we've talked about a bit already. To me, push is force, like it's the external force of pushing us into something. Pull is the internal power of pulling us to something. It's very different. Like it's easier to pull than to push. Like if you had a boulder, right? It's easier, or a heavy suitcase. It's easier to pull the suitcase than to push the suitcase. And most people are living in push mechanics, what I call push mechanics. Like personal development for a large part of the people out there is a push mechanic system. What that means is this is you, and irrelevant of you, the system is saying, go do this, go follow this formula, go buy my book and follow these 10 steps. And that's pushing. It's pushing someone into a box that wasn't designed for them, made for them. Whereas pull is where it's where I work from. It's figuring out who is the person in front of me, what are they made from, what are they made with, and what are they made for, and holding that greatness out of them, which we naturally do not resist. We don't resist who we are. We resist what our unconscious mind knows is not meant for us, which is why, if you're trying to wake up at, be part of the 5 a.m. club and you can't do it, it's probably because you're not meant to do it. But the books tell you, the gurus tell you,
Yeah.
If you're struggling that hard, like just stop. The stress of going against your natural flow is creating more damage than actually succeeding at 5 a.m.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes. No, I've learned I'm a 9 a.m. person actually. I can't get it. I've tried it. I've tried it for 5 o'clock. Tried
Our
it.
circadian rhythms matter,
Yeah.
right? Like we read all these studies and you say something like, I don't know, 85% of people do best if they wake up at 6 in the morning, go to the gym, eat a breakfast, and then are at work by 7 a.m. and spend their first 5 hours doing X. That's what the statistic says. You don't know if you're part of the 80% successful or 20% non-successful, right? So this is what I'm saying. Like a lot of us are being driven by pushing ourselves to doing something that isn't meant for us.
Yeah.
And it's not just the strategies of life or the habits to keep. It's also how we're showing up. So many people. One of the biggest complaints, maybe that's not the word. One of the biggest challenges my clients would have, and they're all entrepreneurs, right? So, is that they're nice people. They're people pleasers, right? Well, nice is not the same thing as being kind, but we're told to be nice at the cost of being kind. And that's very different. Kind is, I'm going to tell you what needs to be said, even if it's going to hurt, because that's the only way we move forward together with mutual respect, trust, and care. Nice is, I'm going to completely ignore what I need, what I want, how I'm feeling, because I'm going to like submit to what you're asking for, even if fundamentally I don't think it's the best thing for any of us.
Yeah. And why is it so difficult for us to see our blind spots? I know you sometimes say people, the jar can't read its own label.
Right. We can't do it because we all have an ego. And that ego fights for dear life to stay alive, right? Like the ego is, I call mine Bob. He lives up here. He's like the unwelcomed roommate who doesn't pay rent and leaves the dishes all over the place. He's the one who's always fighting everything that I know is right for me. We all have a Bob in our head, and Bob convinces us of what the ego wants, not what is right. So sometimes we can't see our own patterns. We can't see our own blind spots because, and I think for most people, it's not that they can't see it, it's that they see it, but they don't want to acknowledge it. I think would probably be a better definition. That's why it's so important to have someone outside of ourselves. And I wanted to give the caveat that sometimes that's not family or friends. Family or friends have their own agendas with us, and they have their own egos that they're protecting. So they might give you advice. It might not be the best advice for you. It's advice they're giving you because it validates their choices, right? But someone who's unbiased outside of you, a therapist, a coach, these are the people, or mentor, these are the people you want to have in your life. And yes, you probably have to pay them. That's what keeps them neutral. Someone who's not emotionally attached to you, someone who's not you know, gaining from, you know, whether you go left or right, who can help you to see those blind spots and help you identify them. Because only then can you really work on yourself and evolve to the next level.
Yes, I suppose a really important point in all of this is being able to drop the ego enough to allow somebody to help you and not resist.
Yes, well, that's a pattern too that comes from childhood.
Yeah,
But more of a very, very apparent in women, who, you know, we see it all the time, and with women more than men. Men are pretty good at asking for help, generally speaking, or at least certain types of help. Women, especially the strong, independent, hyper smart, who, you know, they're not so good at asking for help. They almost wear their independence as a badge, even though it crushes them at night.
yeah, and it become. I mean, I've experienced those situations where you really want to give someone feedback, and actually almost getting the permission from it to give feedback can be difficult. And if you give it, you can you know, you can end up with a. I suppose you see this. You see this a lot with Gordon Ramsay on the chef program, because I'm thinking about you when he goes in and fixes restaurants, and he's, you know, he's pretty rude sometimes. But some of those owners of those restaurants which are really failing, the
Yeah.
resistance, you see that resistance.
Yeah, well, permission is important. If you don't have someone's permission, their unconscious mind isn't listening. It's just their ego that's going to listen, and that
Yeah,
ego is going to fight back. So if you ever gave someone advice and they're not listening, it's because you haven't opened up their unconscious mind for permission,
yeah,
to hear it.
yeah. So that's a good thing to do, is to get that permission first.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
So how do you think? So how's tech and there's all this work, you know, around genetics today? We've got AI. You know, how's that going to transform healthcare and well-being, do you think? And how will you utilize that within the work you're doing?
So my hope is that we very soon become a little bit like Star Trek, and then we have all these systems, you know, being able to help and diagnose and solve a lot of medical issues in a much quicker and more time well time and financially efficient way. So that is my dream for tech and health and well-being. Are we there yet? I think we're starting. Definitely, um, you know, one of the things that is great about, I mean, people who like me are working in personalized healthcare is for that.
Oh, it sounds just suddenly gone.
Um, so yeah, it is, for instance, now, no, but something like 2009.
We've lost your sound, Gaia. It's very broken. I don't know what's happened there.
Is this better?
Yeah.
Okay. So we now know that since 2009 or up until 2009, women weren't even being studied as part of medical studies, right?
Yes.
So what does that mean? That means that all the protocols that we women have been receiving for the last 100 years of, you know, pharma and medical health were not even designed for us. We weren't even being taken into account. But now with personalized healthcare, we can be, right? Now with personalized healthcare, women are being brought into the fold of medical studies, which is important. We don't operate like men. We have multiple hormones. We have a 28-day cycle. You know, it's important to see how the protocols we've been given actually affect us. Because women, for instance, which is, you know, a little bit more than half the population, have a longer length of life, but much, much poorer quality overall, right? So even personal development systems that are out there, they're very masculine. They're masculine oriented. They're not feminine oriented. Spirituality, a lot of the spiritual things that I hear my clients go out and do, again, it's pushing. It's a strategy on top of a problem. It's not coming from within. For women, that doesn't work. It works even less for women than it does for men. We have a completely different operating system as a baseline. It's much
Mm.
more intuitive, it's much more felt, perceptive, much more emotional, much more hormonal. That needs to be honored. And up until recently, it hasn't really been honored that much.
Yeah. But I also guess I can really get that. But it's also, I guess, around medication and things. A lot of that was medication. You know, to be tested on mice, didn't it? And different
Yeah,
different tools, and rather than necessarily human beings, which again, very different.
yeah, exactly. But I mean, I think that's just part of the system, right? They do first,
Yeah, do it
first
first.
little
Yeah,
cells, then they do animals, then they do bigger animals, then they do people.
well, I
But
think they've got.
finally, women are being included.
Yeah.
It's about time.
Yeah, yeah. And I think I just talked to a few healthcare professionals who were sort of, concerned certainly at one stage in the evolution how things were tested, less, designed, and medications developed and things based upon, the tests on animals, and then given to humans. Um,
Exactly. And this is what, just to bring back what we were talking at the very beginning. So I don't think it's maliciously intended. I think that there's only so much we have been able to do up until now with the technology that we've had or with the perspective that we've had. And I think one of the great things about AI and tech and more people being involved and more hyper scientific people being involved in the discussion is that it's opening up um, possibilities and it's opening up perspectives and it's letting us see the blind spots that the label couldn't see, right? Couldn't
yes.
see. Um, yeah, it's letting us just create more for humanity. Uh,
Yeah.
and I think that's a really good thing.
That's great. So people, anyone's listening here at the moment, they're feeling exhausted or really overwhelmed, something's not feeling quite right. Are there any practical steps kind of to reconnect with themselves and help them move out of this current pattern of feelings and emotions?
Yeah. So, having lived in several places and before living in Spain, I was living in Ireland where up until this summer, we barely got we barely got any sun or a lot of heat. Like it's basically raining and cloudy, and your produce is generally imported. Everybody's on vitamin D supplements, all that stuff. Up until I lived in Ireland, I didn't realize just how hard some of these protocols that the gurus tell you to do actually is, right? So depending on where you live in the world, on the planet, where you're listening to us from, there may be different ease of access, but line, you should aim to always have some natural vitamin D as much as is possible. So when the sun is out, go out, enjoy the sunshine, in particular the sunrise. So
Mm.
sunrise, on your face improves vision, improves melatonin production, which improves circadian rhythms. It improves like nutrients absorption when you do eat vegetables and fruits, right? So it's extremely important. So if you can get up early or stay up super, super late and watch the sunrise, it's extremely important. Vitamin D and rays, UVs to have. Secondly is eat an abundance of vegetables. Like I would say even vegetables, not fruit. Like because fruit has a lot of like sugar content. Even though it's healthy, natural sugar content, it's still sugar content. So eat an abundance of fruits vegetables, and aim for those vegetables that clean the system. Things like cauliflower, kale, spinach, because we are in a body that is filled with toxins because of the environment and what is out of our control right now. So those vegetables that help the body to clean themselves out are hyper important to our well-being. um, Sleep, well, there's the 8 hours of night sleep people, and then there's the twice a day sleep people. I'm the twice a day sleep people. I like to have my 6-7 hours at night and then my 25-minute siesta in the afternoon. It doesn't matter where I am in the world. I always do the 25-minute siesta. It's hyper important. And look, Spain is about to be named the #1 place on the planet for longevity. So they've got something going on there with the
Oh,
siestas.
yeah.
It's also good to like reset your brain and start the cycle of focus and concentration and creativity all over again in the second half of the day. So siestas, I'm a big proponent of. If you can do it, you can put it into your schedule, then do that. If you can't, then some level of physical activity, like go for a walk or go to the gym midday, like 4 o'clock. When you're hitting that post lunch slump, that's
Mm.
when you want to either take a nap or go to the gym.
Mm.
And uh, yeah, stay as far away from sugars, sugars, alcohol, nicotine, drugs, and processed foods as much as you can.
Yeah. So that will potentially really lift our mood. I mean, you talked to me about somebody. We obviously can't go into specifics here, but someone who'd they were eating lots of vegetables. So some people might say, actually, I've got a good amount of vegetables, but what you pinpointed was the vegetable selection wasn't wide enough.
Yeah. So I had a client who was going in for surgery to have some of their intestines removed, and we asked the doctor how long they had before the surgery. So I think she was given something like 3 months. We looked at her nutritional, diet, and by all intents and purposes, it looked super healthy. It was. She ate a lot of vegetable soups and fish, but her repertoire was super, super small. So what that means is she had, for instance, a lot of carrots, but not any of the other vegetables, right? So she had 5 or 6 vegetables that she always gravitated towards, but not an array of 10, 20 vegetables. So it made that her nutrient intake was very diminished as well. So what we did is for 6 weeks, I created a meal plan that was far more rainbow-like. We amplified the repertoire of nutrients she was getting in. We supplemented with a multivitamin, and she never had surgery. Right. By the time the time elapsed, the 6 weeks or whatever the doctor had given, she went back for tests and she didn't need surgery anymore.
Yeah.
So obviously that's one case. I can't promise those kind of results for everybody, but this is the power of going back to our natural roots and respecting and honoring the fact that our human body is not a machine. It is a part of the ecosystem, and therefore, God, the universe, Mother Nature, well, whatever energy you want to believe in, they've already designed us to perfection.
Yeah.
We just have to respect it.
Yeah. Great. So you're currently obviously helping lots of clients one-to-one, but you're developing something that will be available online is the intention. So that's what you're working with. When might people see something which also enables them to be, I guess, self-sourced? They can utilize something and then self-manage it rather than needing to follow gurus and experts or spend tens of thousands of pounds in coaching fees and things like that.
Yeah. So the plan is to done by the end of summer, and then have something that can be commercialized by the end of the year. Yeah. In the meantime, if anybody is interested in finding out more about where they uniquely are with their system, I do have 3 free quizzes that they can take. One is an overall life report. The other one is specifically which area is priority. Like one is like overall, how are you doing? The other one is specifically what area of your life is a priority to work on. And the third one is just psychological. It's and it's specifically targeting people at midlife. So let's say 45 to 60. And it's to identify whether you're in a path to clarity or a path to crisis. Those midlife crises are really, really powerful, but we don't always understand how to uncover what they mean for us. So there's a quiz for that as well.
Fantastic. And do you have a final message you'd like to leave us with?
Be happy. Do good. Do good on the planet. Every day, do something good. Every morning, start your day with giving thanks for all those things that if they were taken away from you, you'd miss.
Yeah. Beautiful way to end. Couldn't agree more. Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom with us today. It's always a pleasure talking to you, and I'm really excited as to where this is going to evolve and how it's going to help people going forward, because I know it's so well intended. If you want to find out more about Gaia's work, you can go to genetogenius.com. genetogenius.com. There's also GaiaFerreira.com, and that's Gaia GaiaFerreira.com, and then StellaPolarisCoaching.com, and you can also find
there's a lot.
you have to stop this and rewind, but I guess if you just Google Gaia Ferreira, you're going to find a lot of access to all of these.
Stella Polaris is our corporate programs, and Gene to Genius is a personal program. And if you go to genetogenius/resources or genetogenius.com/resources, that's where you'll find the free quizzes that you can take and get some personal insight.
Fantastic. And on next week's show, we have Nick Cook. Nick was for many years a defence journalist. He's the founder of an organisation called EXO. Very, very smart guy. Written, I think, about 20 books, something like that. And a great writer. And Nick's talking to me really about some of the things that sit on the periphery of life at the moment, some things that can be really helpful to potentially understand, to help us solve some of the world's challenges and problems. If you're interested in that or intrigued, I won't say any more, then check that out next week. Once again, huge thank you to Gaia, and also, if you've enjoyed this show, please do share it with other people. Do let them know about it. Do share this information, if you found it valuable, with people who may be in that point of life where they're feeling that something isn't quite right. Do share it with them. And if you've got any questions or comments, you can always drop me a note at hello@chriscooper.co.uk. Take care.